Can you hear me? Is the sound okay? Yeah? Good. Dear respected Thai, dear friends, so let us begin with the sounds of the bell. Let us enjoy sitting beautifully, sitting relaxingly, and enjoy our in-breath and our out-breath. Let's close our eyes so that it's easy for us to focus on our practice, our breathing. Let's bring our attention to our body. Relax our body. Feel the expanding of the body, the expansion of the body, and the contraction of the body with an in-breath and with an out-breath. Feel the body easing with an in-breath and relaxing with an out-breath. Feel our belly rising and falling. This is a happy moment. There's nowhere to go and nothing to do. Just enjoy being with ourselves. Touching love inside our hearts for ourselves. Being present for ourselves is a true mark of self-love, true expression of self-love. And allow the vibration of the bells to sink deeply into our body and into our mind, so that it can help us to touch peace, calm, and healing in our body and our mind. So, dear respected Thai and dear beloved community, let me begin by introducing myself. I know a lot of you, some of you may have known me already, but a lot of you have not met me or have not known me. My name is Sister Nghiem or Sister Insight. I am living in the New Hamlet, and this coming December will be my 30th anniversary as a nun. So almost 30 years as a nun in Plum Village. And some of you have met me. This friend here came up to me this morning as I was coming here and asked me, "You're one of the senior sisters, right? I met you before, 20 years ago." She misses the elder sisters. And because there are few of us now, right? Yeah, few older brothers and sisters, and I'm sure you see so many new faces in the community. Yeah. The other day, a young friend in the New Hamlet said she met me already, and she met me online. She met me on YouTube. And one of the things she said that had touched me so much was, she said, when she listened to my Dharma talk, she said she wanted to be like that nun. What a compliment that is, right? So, thank you. So, I'm really happy to be here with you today. This is the first Dharma talk for lay friends for the 3 months rain retreat. And I know a lot of you are here for 3 months. How many of you are here for 3 months? Thank you. I know in the 3 hamlets, we have, I think, over 100 people staying for 3 months. Wow, what a big commitment that is, to make time and be here for 3 months. This is, the rain retreat is really for the monastics. And it's a tradition that's dated back to the time of the Buddha. Time for the monastics to not to have to go anywhere. Because back then they had to travel a lot from places to places. And they go on alms round every day for food, to beg for food. But during the rain retreat, we didn't have to go anywhere. Partly because it was, out of compassion for the little creatures that were surfacing during the monsoon season, but also partly because we wanted to consolidate the practice in this community, the Sangha. So it's really time to deepen our practice. And I think during the time of the Buddha, there were no lay friends who joined the 3 months rain retreat. So we're doing much better this, in our time, that more than 100 lay friends are participating the whole 3 months with the monastics during the rain retreat. This is really, really wonderful, really precious. And I'm sure you have made a lot of commitment and arrangement and preparation to be here. And I'm always curious to know, why are you here? I mean, what's your reason for being here? And especially this year, we have so many young people. In the New Hamlet, like more than half of our 3-month retreatants are young people. And one of my sisters said to me, in the past, it was only old people who had time and money to come for 3 months. But this year, there are so many young people. So what are you looking for? Why are you here? What are your reasons for coming here? I'm sure you have your reasons, you have Each one of us have our reasons for coming here. Maybe you're looking for something. I'm sure you're looking for something that's really precious and dear, that you cannot find it out there in the world, right? Is it happiness you're looking for? Peace? Maybe you're looking for ways to work with your suffering. Maybe you want to learn ways to cultivate joy, peace, and love. Or maybe you just want to have a path of beauty, a path of goodness, a path of truth to deal with, all the chaos and problems and issues out there in the world. What are the kind of issues you are facing out there? I mean, not just you out there, but us here also. Well, climate change is one of those issues that a lot of us, especially the young people, are very despaired about, right? Violence is another issue. Well, the world is becoming a bit more violent, every day. What else? You just want to live, you want to find a way to live a simple life, right? Because there's just so much consumption out there. There's a race out there to get more, to get a lot, to get more and more, in the expense of, depletion of natural resources. The climate change that's affecting all of us now, something that's really tangible now, not just imagination, something we experience here in Plum Village this summer with the heat. It used to be a heat wave that happens maybe 1 or 2 days, but now it was continuous for a long time, many days, when the temperature was quite high here. So climate change is one of those things that's creating a lot of fear and anxiety and despair in many of us. So we're looking for ways. We're looking for a path, right? So that we can live in peace, so that we can touch happiness, regardless of what's happening around us. Right? And I'm sure there are other reasons why you're here, why you're coming here as well. But whatever reason you're here, you are embarking on a spiritual journey that will change your life forever, as it has for me. Changing your life for the better. So for the 3-month retreat, rain retreat, the monastics, before entering the 3 months rain retreat, we had a lot of preparation. Changing room, changing working responsibility, changing rotations, letting go of things that are not nourishing us and not serving us to fulfill our aspiration as practitioners, as monastics. But one of those things that we sat down together and did together in the new hamlet was to reflect on what it is that we want to realize during the rains retreat, the 3 months rain retreat, because this is time for, returning to ourselves, time to consolidate our practice, time to deepen our practice. And so we had a session we called Release and Expression of Regret. And we release things like movies, music, worldly music, for instance. We release possessions, like extra things that we no longer need. We release them because, the other people may have needs for them, and, we release it as a way to share. And then we write our aspiration. So it was a beautiful session. Everyone was really, really coming back to ourselves, really solemn about, and serious also about their aspiration. We had about 15, 20 minutes to write our aspiration. And then we burned them, as offerings to the universe, so that the Buddha, our ancestor teachers, can be witness to our aspirations. And so I like to suggest our friends, lay practitioners can also do the same thing, to reflect on your aspiration. What do you want to realize during this time that you're here? You're 3 months you're here, or 1 week or 2 weeks that you're here. What do you want to realize? What is your aspiration? It's good to have aspiration. You may not realize, your aspiration during the time that you're here. I may not realize, all these aspirations I put down during these 3 months. But at least I set a direction for me to go into. And aspirations are really a kind of food. We call them volition. Food as volition. Volitions are deepest needs, deepest desire. It's my deepest desire. What do I want to realize? What's the meaning of my life? And how do I want to realize that? And it's a kind of food because when we have these volitions, when we have these aspirations, they energize us. They give us energy to go forward. They give us motivation to go forward. And once we have these aspirations, and we're learning practices also here to realize these aspirations, then we can say that we have a path of beauty, a path of goodness, a path of truth. And once we have this path, there's nothing to be afraid. And that happiness and peace, it's something that we can touch, that we can experience, that we can taste every step along the way on this path. So maybe, this evening, it's a lazy evening. Maybe find some quiet time alone to reflect on your aspiration. You may have already done that. You may have already done that. You may have already guided by your mentor to do that. I know in the New Hamlet we did. the mentor had suggested our friends to write their aspiration. So this is really an invitation for us to reflect on our aspiration, but also, if you have already done it, to revisit your aspirations. Aspirations are something that you make and you revisit, and then you readjust, remodify, to modify all the time. So it's always good to come in touch with your aspirations. And for me, every day, I wake up really early in the morning and I write. I write about my practice. I write about my aspirations. I write about experiences and insights that I have during the day. And it's really about touching my aspiration. It's about reminding myself of my aspirations. So let us breathe. How many of you are here for the first time? Raise your hand. A lot of you. Wow, great. Wonderful. It's always really, really inspiring for me to see new people come into the practice. But what I really get out from these new people are really the beginner's mind. You know, the beginner's mind is a beautiful mind. It's a mind when it's so open and you have so much enthusiasm to learn. You want to learn, you want to know. And it's a kind of mind that we can lose over time. We can forget over time. So coming in touch with people who are coming to the practice for the first time always helps me to remember and to touch my beginner's mind so that I can see things with new eyes. I can see things, the practice, the people, the environment here, as if I'm seeing them for the first time. Because when you see these things for the first time, when you come in here for the first time, like everything is so beautiful, right? And everything is so precious. The beginner's mind is like that. It's so open to see the beauties and goodness. And I know the danger of staying in a place too long. And that danger is losing your beginner's mind. You no longer treasure what's there. You know, treasure the things that you had appreciated so much when you came for the first time. So beginner's mind is really precious. Keep it alive in you. And those of you who've been here for a long time, to really come in touch with these new people so you can rub off the beginner's mind, to nourish your own beginner's mind, to allow your beginner's mind to grow. Because that's the substance. that can help you to go forward on your path. Beginner's mind, aspirations are elements, are energies in you that help you to leap forward, to leap into the Dharma. And so this rain retreat, the theme of the talks is engaged or applied Buddhism. Applied Buddhism. Applied Buddhism means that practices that we are learning, they have to be applied. We have to apply them to make them useful. We have to apply these teachings and practices that we learn to really benefit from them, from the Dharma. Otherwise, they're just more ideas and theories that we get. A lot of us probably read a lot of books on the Dharma, right? Sutra, Dharma, some of us know a lot of the sutras. But they're just dead Dharma if you don't apply them, They are only when we apply them that these dharmas that we learn, these teachings and practices that we learn, become the living Dharma. So we have learned many practices here. I think more than enough. And also we have a path, right? Well, those of you who have not had a path yet, you can do what I had just suggested, to really sit down and see what your aspirations are. And also to look at what you learned, practices that you learned, that can be used to realize those aspirations. So we have a path. Now, what's next? Well, we need to apply them, right? And in Plum Village, the environment, the Sangha, it's conducive to the practice. We have structured the way our life, organized our life in a way Okay, this is better, huh? So I can take this off? Or you want me to leave it on? Okay, yes.
It's just the battery.
I see. Thank you. Where was I? So let's listen to one sound of the bell for us to breathe. So all the practices that we have learned here in Plum Village are really for us to come back to ourselves. They are ways to help us to come back to ourselves. They are ways to help us to be truly present for ourselves. As I am saying this, I thought, isn't it funny that you come in here so that you can come back to yourself? You know, like, aren't we with ourselves all the time? Why do we have to come to Plum Village to come back to ourselves? Well, I could see on your faces your answers to this question. And that's because we're not really there for ourselves most of the time. I think 99% of our thinking is really taking us away from ourselves. And so the practices here, simple, basic practices. Nothing abstract, nothing out of this world. It's all about walking, breathing, being with your body, eating, urinating, defecating, brushing your teeth. Very mundane stuff that we're doing here. And yet we consider them Dharma doors. Dharma doors. The door to enter the Dharma. And I always love that expression. I think the New Hamlet people have heard a lot, from me about Dharma doors. Because I just love that image very much. The door to open, to enter the Dharma. To the door to enter a space where there is just light, love, where there is just peace, clarity, joy and happiness, and freedom. And so, whatever we are doing during the day, they become the Dharma doors. Doors that can help us to experience what it is that we're looking for, which is peace and love and happiness and joy and freedom. But what sets us apart from a practitioner and a non-practitioner in doing these things, in doing these ordinary daily activities, is that we are doing them with mindfulness. It is only with mindfulness that these ordinary daily activities that we do become a Dharma door. And this, it gives us so much confidence and faith in ourselves, in our capacity, because we can create a lot of Dharma doors. Whatever we do become a Dharma door, right? And so mindfulness is an energy that we want to cultivate. Mindfulness is an energy of being aware, of being present. Mindfulness is the energy that helps us to be awake. Mindfulness is an energy that heals us, an energy that can help us touch capacities in ourselves that we never know existed. And I'm a testimony to that, because being a nun 30 years, practicing 30 years, I have touched parts of myself that I have never knew that I had, capacities that I never knew I had. Just being able to sit here and talk to you like this, I never knew I had this capacity to be able to sit here. I mean, just the thought of just sharing alone was a bit frightening for me in the past. But now, with the practice of mindfulness, I'm able to sit here and just to be with you, to be able to look into your eyes, to be able to share, my heart, my practice with you. Just that alone gives me a lot of faith in the power of mindfulness. And so mindfulness helps us to be truly alive. And when we are present, whatever it is that we look at or we are interacting with becomes real. We are really there with it. We are present, we are focused, we are concentrated. So mindfulness leads to concentration. When there's mindfulness, there is concentration. Concentration is like when you cook something. Say, a pot of potatoes, a pot of potatoes. And the fire is on, and it stays on. And that fire that stays on is really the concentration. It needs to stay on so that the potato can be cooked. Because if you turn it off after 5 minutes, you can't cook the potato. And then you turn it on again after some time, and then turn it on and off and on and off. You can never really cook the potato. If you want to cook the potato, you need to keep the fire on. And so concentration is when you are focusing on something for a duration of time. You concentrate long enough so that you can really cook that potatoes. You keep the concentration long enough so that you can see deeply into what it is that you're looking at. What is it that you're looking at? You're looking at your suffering, right? You're looking at a friend. You're looking at a thing, a flower. You're looking at yourself, your body, your mind. And if you sustain that concentration, you will see, it will reveal to you, just like the potato cooked on its own without any effort on our part. When we look deeply with concentration, it will show to us why we are the way we are, causes and conditions that brought about this situation, that brought about this body and mind, that brought about this flower. And that kind of seeing is not just coming from the head, like from you think, and you understand. it comes from a very deep place inside yourself, a deep place inside us. And that's called insight or wisdom or understanding. It's the understanding that comes from being present and being concentrated long enough that we see. And that wisdom, that insight, that kind of seeing is the energy that frees us, that liberates us. And so mindfulness, concentration, and insight are the gist, the essence of meditation practices, of mindfulness practices. And that whatever you do with mindfulness, concentration, and insight, they become Dharma doors. They become the Dharma. They become the living Dharma. And they have the capacity to transform and to heal, transform your life and heal your life. In meditation, in Zen, we say that no mind is a Zen mind, which means that we need to empty our head of thoughts. In other words, meditation, it's not about thinking. Meditation is about being. It's about being, and it's about sensing, feeling. And this is something that's really challenging for us. It is something that prevents us from really coming back to ourselves, right? Being with ourselves. It's the thinking. What I see is that thinking are really, most of the time, we're really daydreaming. We're not really thinking productively. We are really daydreaming. Maybe 95% of our time, our thinking are really daydreaming. I remember I had this experience when I was about maybe 13 years old, and it was such a bizarre experience I had when I was 13, and it stayed with me for so long until now. And it was my first time daydreaming. And I remember sitting in the classroom and I was kind of bored. And then I daydreamed. It was intentional. I was thinking about something else, something I'd rather do than sitting in the classroom like that. And then I realized, oh wow, this is really what people call daydreaming. You know, like being there and thinking about something else, and rather being somewhere else. And it stayed with me so long, because it was a really bizarre experience and feeling I had when I was sitting there and thinking about something else. But then over time it became the norm. It became the normal. Daydreaming becomes the normal, and we do it all the time. We do it all the time. We're here, but we're thinking about something else. We're here, but we're thinking about someone. We're not thinking about ourselves. We're not reflecting on ourselves. So let us breathe with this bell. I remembered feeling really disconnected with myself. I felt a sense of uneasiness in my body, and I felt drained as I was sitting there and daydream. And so most of our thinking are daydreaming, and so we feel drained. We feel tired. And we don't know why we're tired. We don't know that it's our thinking that's draining us. And so the Buddha talked about the second arrows. The second arrow. So and a story in the sutra is that a man was shot by someone, shot with an arrow by someone. And it was really painful. But a second arrow came and shot at the same place. And the pain is not just double. The pain is manifold, right? And the Buddha said that we are shooting second arrows at ourselves all the time. We have a suffering. Someone has said something that hurts us. And then we think we're creating these stories in our head about ourselves and about that person, about the situation. And it becomes so exaggerated in our head. We suffer more because of all these stories that we're creating. So we are actually shooting second arrows at ourselves. So this word is really painful already, but our thinking makes it even worse. And so the practice is to be able to hush our head, our thinking. So the practice is to be able to recognize our thinking, to smile at it, and allow it to pass, and not to hold on to them. And so the Buddha talked a lot about perception. Thai also talked a lot about perception. And perceptions are just stories that we create in our head about ourselves, about other people, about the world. And that these stories, we've created them, but also stories that we have received them from other people, from our education, from our societies, from our upbringing, from our families, from our ancestors. And some of us live with these stories all our life. And these stories are our realities. And a lot of these stories are creating a lot of suffering for us. I had an experience it was really a wake-up call for me with my perceptions. It was during the time I was taking care of my mom, who was having a stroke. And at the same time, I was already a nun, and I had to take care of my mom. This was when I went back to the U.S., lived at our center in Deer Park, and my mom had a stroke, so we brought her to Deer Park so that I can take care of her, and at the same time, be in the community. And I have a monastic brother, some of you know, Brother Phap Dang, was also helping me to take care of my mom. So we both took turn to take care of our mom. And she was really challenging because she's confused. And with the stroke, she was able to walk, but she was no longer clear in her head. And at the same time, I had already accepted to take care of registration before my mom had the stroke, to take care of registration to bring people like you to Vietnam on a trip with Thai. It was the second trip that Thai went back to Vietnam. And it was really stressful. Being with my mom was really stressful. And yet doing this work alone also, we brought over 100 people with us to Vietnam, and I was the only one that was doing from registration, taking care of the payment, like all these stuff. I had my sisters in Vietnam that was taking care of the hotel and all that kind of transportation. But everything else on this part, I had to take care. And then we went to Vietnam. We went to Vietnam and we had the retreat in Vietnam. And, we got everyone settled down. Everyone had their room. And then I collapsed. I collapsed in here. You look from outside, I was really solid. But in here, I was falling apart. Because I had too much tension and too much on my plate. And I no longer had my clarity. I couldn't breathe. And what was really scary was that when I have a thought that comes into my head, I thought they become reality. It's so real that they are like reality. And I was like really alarmed because this is like someone, I can imagine someone who's going mad that because they have so much stress that it's overboard for them to the point where just a thought that comes up in their head becomes a reality for them, something that's happening for them. And I was like, oh my dear, this is really serious. And I don't know who to share this experience I had. So I had to rely on the practice. I had to take refuge in the practice. And then I shared it with a friend who is also an acupuncturist, and he gave me a treatment. And 2 needles in. And the moment I had these 2 needles in, like all the tension in my head was like, shh. I felt like such release of energy from my brain, from my head, from my body. And I felt normal again. And that was like a wake-up call for me because I thought, or stories in my head, if I'm not mindful, can build up, can create so much tension and stress in my body, and that it can become my reality. A reality that's fabricated by my mind. And so the practice, it's really a refuge if you want to stay sane and clear in your head. So the basic practices that you do here, that we learn here, the practice of breathing, of walking, they sound so simple. so elementary, but they are actually the foundation, and they are actually instruments that help us to really let go of these thinking and these perceptions. So the practice is about coming back and take refuge in the breath, in the body. The breath is always there, right? I'm sure you're breathing right now, right? Are we aware that we're breathing? Well, the breath will always be there. The breath is our friend. It's our best friend. It has entered the world with us. And then eventually, it will end when we end, at the end of our life. And the breath is a Dharma door that helps us to touch peace and clarity. A Dharma door that helps us to recognize that we're caught in our perception, we're caught in our thinking, so that we can let it go. The moment you recognize that you are having a perception, then it's no longer a perception. That it's an understanding. It's a reality. My reality right now is that I'm thinking too much. My reality right now is that I have these stories in my head, and these stories, it's preventing me to see things as it is. So coming back to the breath is really a very important practice, a really important Dharma door. So when you leave Plum Village, and you don't remember everything you learned here, all you need to do is to remember to breathe, and you got it all. And that you can do it at any time, anywhere. Coming back to your breath. Coming back just to recognize the breathing as it is. There's no need to make it long, there's no need to make it short. Just simply noticing that the breathing is happening. And when you notice that the breathing is happening, all your focus and all your energy is focusing on the breath and not in your head, not in your thinking. So you are really present with this breath. And that you are letting go the thinking of the stories, of these perceptions, when you're able to stay with the breath, with the breathing. So let us breathe with the sound of the bell. Let us breathe and feel what it's like when we're able to stay with the breathing. See how our mind stops thinking with this breath, and how we are dwelling deeply in our body with this breath. And as I'm breathing, I feel this vibration, this pulsing in my body. And I call it a happy feeling. It's a happy feeling because I'm there with my body. I'm recognizing my body, and my body is happy. And with an in-breath, with an out-breath, with this breath, with this breathing, we can relax. Do you notice that you were relaxing when you were breathing? Yes. And a smile is really important. As you have already seen how so many people, everyone here in Plum Village is smiling, right? Well, you can smile. It's not a social smile. I'm not smiling because for you, I'm really smiling because it's helping me to relax. I'm smiling because I'm alive. That the smile is an indication that I'm truly there for myself. And I notice that when I'm not, when I tend to slip away from mindfulness, then I have this big smile on my face. I smile, consciously smile, like a big smile. Then I come back like that. Then I can go in the zone of mindfulness like that. Try that next time. When you see yourself slipping away, thinking about something else, just smile to yourself. Do you notice how your body and your mind come together and you can sense your body being truly there and you are truly present. So a smile is really important, and it makes you beautiful, and it makes people more approachable to you, they like to approach you, you're more approachable. But it's more than that. It's really helping you to relax and helping you to be mindful, helping you to be more present for yourself. So, how to relax? Just smile and breathe. So if you want to know how to relax your body and your mind, just smile and breathe. And then your body and your mind will relax on its own. So we talk about letting go. Letting go, there's an expression in the sutra that says, Li shen hi lạc. Li means letting go. Shen gives birth to joy and happiness. So letting go gives rise to joy and happiness. When you're able to let go your thinking, it gives rise to joy and happiness. It's like, yay, I'm my own boss. I'm not a slave to these stories and this thinking. Sometimes you want to stop thinking and you couldn't, right? And especially in the middle of the night when you couldn't sleep and your brain is so active and you get so exhausted and yet you couldn't turn this off. Does that ever happen to you? And so letting go, just to be able to let go, to recognize that I'm thinking right now. My reality, I'm recognizing my reality right now, and that in this moment I'm thinking. And just the fact that I recognize that I'm thinking is already helping me to let go. That I'm present. And I can just smile to that thought. I can smile to that thinking. And I can breathe so that I can just let it go and I can be present. So letting go is not, it's about surrendering, but it's not about suppressing. Sometimes it's a bit difficult, the concept of letting go, right? I remember when I learned this, when I just entered the practice, I didn't understand what it means letting go. And I know my mom talked about letting go all the time. Like when I'm angry and upset, she said, just let it go. And I didn't really understand what that means. Does it mean to reject how I'm feeling? Like, I'm angry. She said, let it go. Does it mean that I should not acknowledge how I'm feeling? Does it mean that I need to suppress it so that it's not manifesting? What does it mean? For me, in my practice, it's about accepting. Letting go means accepting. I accept the situation as it is. And just by accepting the situation as it is, the situation changes. And that's letting go. I'm no longer clinging on to this idea, or I'm no longer clinging on to, this perception, this thinking. I'm no longer clinging on to this thing. When I'm able to accept it. And sometimes we cling on to our suffering. We identify our suffering as ourselves. This is my suffering. And we couldn't let go. And sometimes that becomes like our comfort zone. Some people are in abusive relationship and they couldn't leave the abusive relationship because that's their comfort zone. And so just to be able to recognize and to accept, surrendering. Accepting means surrendering. I don't need to struggle anymore with it. And I don't want to cling onto it anymore. I just accept it for what it is. I accept it with the energy of mindfulness. I embrace it with the energy of mindfulness. I embrace it with my breath. Letting go is to be able to accept and to smile at it and to breathe with it. When we are able to accept, our hearts open. And we have more clarity because there's no more struggling in our head. There's no longer this storm that's raging inside. When we can accept, it's like sitting in the middle of in the eye of the storm. Like it can be raging around us, but right in that center, there's peace and calm. So what we are practicing here in Plum Village, it's all about watering seeds. Because mindfulness, concentration, and insight are already there in us. They are in the form of seeds in the depths of our being. They are our innate potentials, capacities. They are the Buddha inside. They are the baby Buddhas inside us. And the practice of cultivating mindfulness through conscious breathing, mindful walking, eating, like all these practices with mindfulness are to really help this energy or this seed to grow. The seed in our store consciousness to grow. And the bigger they are, the happier we are, the freer we are. And we cultivate them and we develop them until they become so big that we become a Buddha. That's what Buddha is. A Buddha is someone who has cultivated and developed these capacities, mindfulness, concentration, and insight, to its highest capacity. And we are also creating new pathways We call them neural pathways. Pathways that lead to happiness and peace, instead of pathways that lead to suffering, as we had experienced and tread on for so long. We're here to create new neural pathways that lead to happiness and peace and joy, freedom. But I traditionally, we don't say neural pathways, right? We say karmas. Because whatever we do through our actions of body, speech, and mind are really our karmas. Karmas they just mean action. And so my actions of body and speech and mind are my only belongings. And that I inherit the results of my actions of body, speech, and mind. My actions of body, speech, and mind are my continuation. They're like my babies that I produce through actions of body, speech, and mind, and that I'm responsible for these babies. And that these babies determine whether I'm happy or not happy, whether I'm on the right path or the wrong path. So karma that leads that are wholesome and positive will lead me down path of happiness, joy, and peace, and freedom. Actions that are watering, that are coming from unwholesome body, speech, and mind, from unwholesome actions of body, speech, and mind, leads me down to path of suffering, confusion, and despair. So at the end of the day, I have a choice. I have a choice. So which do I choose? Wholesome karma or unwholesome karma? Do I choose path that lead to freedom and happiness? Or do I want to take down path that leads to suffering, confusion, and despair? It's up to us, it's up to me. And so the practices are offered to us. And we can make use of these practices. We can make use of the presence of this beautiful community to help us cultivate wholesome karmas, wholesome actions of body, speech, and mind. Because I'm sure we are here because we want a path of beauty and goodness, right? And so the breath, the practice of letting go, the practice of relaxing, the practice of being with our bodies are ways that can help us to cultivate healthy and wholesome karmas so that it can lead us on the path of beauty and goodness, a path to well-being, happiness, joy, and freedom. So here here's a mantra that I want to offer to you as a conclusion to this sharing this morning. And this mantra, there are only 3 words, and that you can use this mantra at any time and anywhere. And this mantra is also to conclude and a summary of what I had just shared. So if you forgot everything I had said in this like an hour and a half, that's okay. All you need to do is to remember this mantra, and the mantra is breathe, smile, and accept. Breathe, smile, and accept. So I like to offer this mantra as a gift to you all, so that you can really savor your time here in Plum Village and make your stay, a beneficial time. And that there's no need to stress about anything here, because all you need to remember is just to breathe, smile, and accept, and everything will be okay. So thank you for listening, and thank you for your support with your presence and your smile. So we will end this sharing with the 3 sounds of the bell. And let us apply that mantra. Breathe, smile, and accept. Accept myself for who I am. Accept all the complexes that I may have. Accept my suffering. And accept myself for who I am.